Welcome everybody to the Win Again Clubroom. My name is Mark Moyer, and I'm super excited to have two fantastic and amazing women here in the clubroom, and they're going to be joining us shortly. And I'm going to just do a little intro on each, and then invite you in if that's cool with you. And I'm batting first is Brittany, and I'm going to ask you to come in, Brittany, while I do this. But Brittany is the co-founder and chief marketing officer. I almost said medical officer, chief marketing officer of Rave Sports, right? Are you a medical officer too? Maybe.
I could be. So we'll say medical officer too. So both.
Great. But what's really cool is that she was accepted into the Invest HER directory, which is the biggest global directory of companies founded by or co-founded by women. That is cool. Congratulations on that. Amazing.
Yeah.
She does social media marketing, she does sales, she does all kinds of things, and she bleeds Kentucky blue. Did I do that right?
Yes, you did. You did. Yeah. That's most important. Lead with that. I bleed Kentucky blue.
And then I'm sorry, what's your title that you put on your
Yeah. So starting a business in the sports industry as a woman, there aren't as many. So I had a lot of people think I was a man. And so head bitch in charge is what everybody lovingly calls me. So that's my Twitter name too. And so all of my little Rave team members and my Rave family, all the employees, that's what they call me. So the HBIC is it's the abbreviation version, but that's what it means, is head bitch in charge. I'm the only one. So, it's fitting.
I may know a few others, but anyways. Well, now Tamara, and don't call her Tamara or any other variation. Tamara
Okay.
Laine.
Tamara.
Tamara Laine is coming in shortly, and Tamara is, you ready for this? And I'm going to make you blush a little bit or something, Tamara. Emmy award-winning journalist, content expert, policy analyst, right? A podcast host, a film producer, an on-air reporter with Fox TV here in New York. She was with MTV, and currently, it's a secret, not really, she's the co-founder and CMO of Card Shop Live. And are you also the head bitch in charge?
I call myself the queen of the castle, or the captain of the ship to all my team.
The queen of
so
the
that
castle.
They don't. Yeah. So, but I do like the head bitch in charge. That's a nice one.
We can share the title. There's room for another head bitch. So
this is great. I don't know if there's room for me in that triumvirate. But anyways, now, Tamara, do it's all guys that you work with, right? Pretty much.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
you absolutely are. Although there may be some other guys are also. Never mind. Anyways, no, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, I think Brittany's right. I just think this, we're in an area that's typically dominated by more men, which is fine. And we're coming in and mixing things up.
Yeah.
I like it, kicking ass and taking names. But
Right.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask each of you, if you could, to just give me like a 30-second to minute long, maybe like how you would describe your company and what you're doing with them to others who ask. Whether it's tonight and so forth. And the reason, just to make it a short one, because I'll be asking some questions throughout that really pull out the rest of it. But both of you are doing such interesting work. So. But I'm going to lead off with, Brittany, can you tell us a little bit about what Rave Sports is? And maybe most importantly, I love the story of how it came about. Go ahead and tell everybody that.
Yeah. So, we are really an app that's designed to harness fan engagement. And I know that's kind of a hot button word, but really more specifically to really figure out fan sentiment around the teams and the leagues that they love, and really find out how to kind of reinvigorate, fan engagement and keep fans that love their team engaged in new ways during the game. So we launched our app on the App Store 6 days before COVID, which was really frustrating. But here in Kentucky, we're too dumb to kind of quit sometimes. So we just kept persevering because we thought we had a good idea, and we kept going, and we're still around. So that's just a real short snippet about who we are and what we do.
That's amazing. And so give me a quick example. If I'm a fan of, let's say, University of Kentucky, and I see, I'm watching the game on TV and I see something that just kind of ticks me off. How does it work? Tell me a little bit about how that works.
Yeah, so I mean, it really started with this idea that fans don't have a good way to express themselves when they're happy or when they're frustrated, and
Mm,
fans want to be able to do that. And, a lot of us, think the refs suck sometimes. So, sorry, but we're frustrated about it. So we have a live play-by-play so fans can vote on everything that happens during the game. So if they love that play or hate it, their opinion gets to be voiced. Then we have these special chat rooms that are actually hosted by sports influencers. So podcasters, former players, YouTubers. So you get to actually get in these chat rooms, trash talk with the other side if you want to do that, talk to a host from a team that you love. And it really keeps fans engaged during the game if you can't go to the stadium. And there are more fans that aren't in the stadium than fans that are. So that's really what our target market is.
I love it. That sounds really cool. And we'll talk about it some more in a second. Tamara, Brittany said earlier that she's a collector and has been a sports card collector. I'm hopelessly, a collector as well. And if you sort of go 3 feet that way, 3 feet this way, and that way, you'll find all kinds of stuff and sports cards and everything. But when I found out about what you do and what the app does, I was pretty jazzed. But tell everybody, how did it come about, and you know, tell me a little bit more about your involvement with them.
Yeah, well, and so Mark's already mentioned, I think, a few times that we Card Shop Live is a live video shopping app for collectors, and we really launched with sports cards and trading cards, being able to buy and sell those sports cards live from live sellers with live chats, and be able to also join in breaks for these cards. And if you don't know what a break is, it's when these sports cards come in very expensive hobby boxes, and the boxes can range from like $500 to like $40,000. So you buy a spot into one of the breaks, and then you get, given a team, and hopefully you then end up with a card that's really valuable. On our app, we've had a $140,000 card pulled in one of our breaks recently. So it's very cool. It's a fun. I know Mark has not had that experience yet. But it's a really cool experience. And I think what really drew me to be a part of this organization and a part of, what we're doing is, first and foremost, I believe that this is the future of shopping. It's amazing for collectors and hobbyists because we are doing this first, focusing on them. And our app is going to be for fans, right? But I just genuinely believe that all shopping will be like this in the near future because it is so much fun. It is so engaging. And I think everybody's tired of the old stale way of, you just go to Amazon and you hope that you're getting what you want, and it's a stale experience. And this is such a fun experience.
Yeah, so I can vouch for that in a slightly less fun way, but no. But what it's almost, to me though, it's sort of like you get the thrill of gambling too a little bit. So I mean, I'll explain it in layman's terms because I know you're a pro now, Tamara, on this. But
I gotta
so
explain stuff.
basically, baseball cards come in packs, and the packs come in a box. So you get a box of, let's say, 36 packs or 24 packs or something. And this is from when I was a kid, and I'd go to the store and I'd buy a dozen packs. I'd put all the bubble gum in my mouth, and I would open each pack to see who I got. Back in those days, there wasn't really a lot of value to the cards back then. There are now, but not back then. So we'd just see who we got, what teams are on. I really wanted the Yankees. I really hated the Red Sox, that kind of thing. Well, now what they're doing is they're doing a live stream with the cameras on. You see the guy's hand opening up each pack, and then he's taking out each card one by one and saying, "Oh, look, here's John Smith. Here's this, that. Here's Aaron Judge. Here's some." And if you've basically bid a certain amount to have a spot in that event where you would get, let's say, assigned a couple of teams. So you would have, let's say, the Tigers and the Yankees. So if the card comes out as Aaron Judge and it's an autographed, whatever it is, worth $1 bajillion, you get that card. And it's really exciting because you don't really know what teams you're going to get or whatever it is. It's total gambling, but it's a blast. And so both of you guys are both, running apps that I could absolutely see people being completely hooked into and addicted to, in a good way, of course. And kick that BS TikTok to the curb, man. Right?
100%. I
I
mean,
mean,
this is a better place to come and engage, and I with the Brittany's app as well.
yeah, of course.
Well, really what I, don't love about, what I love about social media is how, niche it can be. Whatever weird thing you're in, there is a place for you on social. But what I hate about that, and TikTok has really gotten notorious for it, is that people are using these hashtags because they're trending and not because they match up with their content. So if you want sports content, now you also have to get a barrage of videos before you get to the one sports video that have nothing to do with that. And you're like, this is not what I asked for. That's not how it's supposed to work. And so it is really frustrating because you're not even getting the video content that would, that you would want. You're having to sift through all of that. So I think really making these curated, experiences is really important. I don't want to do everything well. We just want to do sports really well. And
Mhm.
like just like you do a different brand of really fun experiences for fans and give them something else.
I could totally see not. I mean, I guess we could be talking about this outside of this, but I can totally see how you guys could almost do events on each other's apps for sure. Because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, how exciting would it be to do a football box opening thing for your NFL fans, that come in and doing a live thing on there. And then at the same time, Brittany, you could send a bunch of baseball fans that come be a part of, a baseball opening on Card Shop Live.
Yeah, I
Oh,
would
yeah.
love to talk to you about this afterwards because I think there's some ways especially that we could collaborate on what we're doing.
100%.
All right, well, my was done. See ya.
Yeah, get out. You're done. We didn't need you anyways. I'm just kidding. You put this all
Story of my
together.
life.
We'll give you your pats on the back for it. Good job, Lauren.
Yay. Yay. I want fans. Anyway, so but back to a couple of things that are really I'm curious about. Brittany, tell me a little bit about some of the challenges that you face. And I don't want to be overly cliche in saying, well, because you're a woman in sports and this and that, that sometimes it's a little bit harder because you need to convince some of the backwards guys that you know your stuff and so forth. But tell me a little bit about some of the headwinds that you've faced as you've tried to grow this brand.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair to say that. I don't really like to stand on, it's weird when you're out raising money and talking about this stuff to I feel weird, hanging my hat on being a woman because I feel like I've got a really good business. And so I don't really want to be somebody's check mark. Like, I'm going to talk to this person because she's a woman.
Yeah.
Like, I really want it to be because of the work that I've done and because I'm a good operator. But that is real. And it is a difficult business for women in business, and definitely, women in sports is an even smaller subset. Women in sports tech is teenier than that. And so there are challenges. Like I said, like I was messaging people, through Twitter as Rave on, not as me. And people would think I was a man, or they would,
Mm,
want to talk to my male co-founder instead of me. I'm lucky that he pushed everybody back to me and he'd be like, nope, she's the head bitch in charge. There's nobody, we're the
yeah.
same. But that's a big challenge, really changing that narrative. We'll go into meetings where he'll be super casual, and I always feel like I have to dress up more. I have to be more of a sports fan. I have to love my team more. And that's, I do love my team a lot, and I have a lot of enthusiasm, as you can tell.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that you've faced those same challenges. It's just different. I'm lucky that I get to work around a lot of really great men that don't act like that. And I think the majority of men aren't. But sometimes the men that are louder than the ones that are not. And there are definitely some roadblocks, but you can see that the sports industry is really opening up for women. And I'm really excited to be a part of that. My daughters are sports fans too. And you can't, I'm 5 feet tall. I wasn't going to play sports. So I wanted to do something else in the sports industry. So also showing us short girls out there that there's other ways you can be a part of sports and be in tech and, so I think that's really good. And there are challenges, but I really love kind of breaking through in this space and, creating a spot for other people to really follow along behind, what we're doing. And there are a lot of us women coming up at the same time who love sports, really making a lot of noise. And I'm excited to be a part of that.
Well, there seems to be, I think, a very big misconception about the whole men in sports, women in sports thing. I mean, when I go to an NHL game, Rangers game, it's almost 50-50 men and women. Same NFL, same baseball. I mean, so the fans are certainly almost a 50-50 mix at this point. And then I'm also seeing that in gaming and esports, right? In esports, you're seeing much more women being involved with that. And so I think it's exciting to see. And because of that, also, we're seeing many more women being involved with sports teams and franchises in the front office and in a variety of different areas. So I think I see a lot of positive movement in that area. But Tamara, tell me a little bit about your experience and if you've run into that or not really.
Well, I'm in an even funnier, subset of sports, right? Because you've got your sports and maybe there's like a limited amount of female leaders in sports companies or sports tech. And then you have collecting and there's even fewer women in that. But I mean, that's actually just a problem of demographics. And I think also how we like have introduced collecting to our children.
Mm.
And I'll say, I'm even a new collector, right? And that's one of the things that I bring to my team that's good because I'm surrounded by a team of men who've been collecting since they were 5, right? And I go to card shows and I talk with the female sellers, and I mean the ratio of female sellers is like 3% to like the
Oh, wow.
97% of male sellers,
Yeah.
right? Like, and then you talk about like women in the hobby, and it's like very small, right? But it's growing, and like, so I'm trying to just like kind of set the stage of why it's just a smaller subset of women in collecting, but I feel like it's a product of how young girls are raised. And, Brittany, I love talking that you were saying, I was collecting with my brothers because there's a lot of moms who are now, in the collecting world and like influencers who are really trying to teach young girls about the hobby and bring them up so that we've got more women in the hobby, right? um so that's just kind of setting the stage for the niche that I'm in of collecting. There just aren't as many women in it. If you go to a card show, I mean, again, I would say the ratio is like 10% women, right? And a lot of them are just really there because they, kind of were brought along. So there's just a fundamental shift that needs to happen in trading card collecting.
Yeah.
We're talking about sports, but if you look at Pokemon right now and TCG, it's like a 50-50 split, right?
Yeah.
Like the demographic there is totally different. So that's where I think like this is something that will transition and change in this next generation that's coming up because everyone is learning about trading cards, not just the young boys.
You
So
know
that's
what's
something that I
No, but no, I was gonna say, but you know what's interesting is that I've always found women to be so much smarter than men. And so I think it's just a matter of time that once women realize how much money can be made in sports collectibles. I mean, they
Yep.
don't know about it now. It's like our secret, it's Guy's secret. Like, shh, don't tell anybody this Mickey Mantle's worth a lot of money. Well, the second, I'm telling you, second they find out our little secret that we keep in our cardboard box or whatever it is, we're toast.
Mhm.
So I think that that's right around the bend. And what's interesting is that when I go out to, let's say, a bar, restaurant, whatever it is, and there's a game on, it's the same thing where, the perception is, oh God, guys and bros like to root for whatever. There's just as many women cheering like crazy at these events that are also screaming at the ref and so forth. So I think that you both are sort of certainly leaders and pioneers and trailblazers and all that sort of thing. But I think that right behind you is the army of women that are going to be sort of charging into a lot of this space. I think that's fantastic. Now, going forward, Brittany, what would you say is one of your challenges in terms of growing the company, and what kind of sort of help would you love to have in growing that?
I think what is both the challenge and also really exciting is that
Mm.
there's a big shake up going on in sports that we haven't seen in years and years and years. There's a lot going on, on the back end of sports. COVID kind of changed a lot of those things. And, just people being in the stadiums has changed. I think that, fan engagement obviously is something that has changed. And then NIL is a new thing.
Yeah.
That wasn't a thing even when we started this business, and now it is. Gambling is coming up. Teams, this year, and a lot of the conferences and colleges, changed where they play. The SEC isn't the same. The teams are, rearranging. There's a lot of kind of restructuring that's going on. So I think that's both a big challenge to figure out, how as a business we kind of, build something that is really fantastic for fans. I really don't want to build something that people aren't going to use, whether I love it or not. That, is nothing. And so really just watching what's happening and finding where you pivot, into those places that are opening up in sports, and just really paying attention to how this landscape is changing and really figuring out how to fill those needs that aren't there right now. So that is a big challenge. I feel like people that are in the sports industry right now, because things are kind of doing this, are just pivoting and pivot. I feel like I'm constantly
Yeah.
doing this all the
Right.
time.
Right.
And so that is a little bit exhausting, but it's also really exciting. And, I do think that we're going to see some new companies and some new ideas and some big changes coming out because of all of these things happening. And I'm really excited about that. So it definitely is a challenge. I would love to find other businesses like Moyer's Card Shop that, want to partner with us, that have some very similar alignment. We're doing something very specific, but we're also kind of not tromping over into your space. We're not kind of, but there's a lot of synergies I think that we can have in the sports world. And that's one thing I think that should happen. Some of these smaller startups should really figure out how to kind of partner with each other and grow together and really kind of create something different inside the space. Because I think what you're seeing and what I'm seeing are the same, is that fans need new experiences, different ones, more engaging ones, creating experiences for younger fans, your daughter, my sons, getting them excited about, being a fan and loving these things. And we've got to figure out what they like, and really change our businesses based on, the people that are going to come after us. So that is a challenge, just kind of learning and constantly growing. It feels very stressful to constantly be in a growing phase all the time, but it also really exciting. And that means that there's a lot of opportunity out there. And those are some of the things that I'm most excited about.
Well, we spoke about this earlier today, about the notion that, that challenge of always feeling like you're growing and there's always more to do, more to do, more to do. And it's like that analogy I said to you earlier today about, you feel like you're climbing a mountain and you're climbing, climbing, climbing like crazy, and you're exhausted. You're like, oh my God, I must be at the top right now, just about there. And then the clouds clear and you're only halfway up. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh God. But then I always say, look, instead of looking up at how far you still have to go, look behind you and see, well, wow, look how far I've come. This is amazing how far I've climbed already. Most people are still way down there, and here I am way up here already. So it's the same sort of thing with a lot of these challenges as we face them, is to keep climbing, but take a break every once in a while to look behind you and say, oh, I knocked that one off. That's amazing. I knocked that one off. That's amazing. So that's one of the
That's
things. Yeah.
important as
Yeah.
a founder and as a startup
Yeah.
company. I think it can be kind of a lonely space out there when you're kind of building something that only you really understand or see in the beginning.
Yeah.
And so I think, looking back, and, a lot of us are very hard on ourselves, because you're never as far along as you think that you should be, and you should always be doing better. So I think just taking a second to give yourself a pat on the back, I think it helps you keep going and doing, getting past those hurdles, to look back and see the other hurdles that you already got past. Okay, that was minor, but I figured it out and I worked around it. We pivoted here. I do agree, Mark. Those are really important things for a business owner.
Well, and you know what? I just thought of this, but I suppose every time you go past a hurdle, it should become a milestone. So you've
Yeah,
there's
that's true.
milestones,
That's
right?
good. Yeah.
Hang on a second. Anyway,
Yeah, write it down. That's a quote to live by.
I'll forget it. I know it. Anyways, Tamara, how about yourself? Tell me a little bit about some of the challenges that you face and you guys have faced as you've tried growing, and what have been some of the headwinds that you've run into.
I mean, man, we're 5 months in right now. So
Right?
like, what am I not dealing with? Right. Like, I think that's a fun thing. And what you guys just hit on. I mean, I guess my head is pure growth mode. Right. And so
Mhm.
my day is is taken up with how do I acquire more customers and more sellers and make their experience the best possible. And it's what's really funny is I think a lot of my assumptions going into this have all changed in the last 5 months, which has been, for me, sometimes it's humbling because, you meetings or these leadership meetings and you're like, our next big thing is going to be influencer marketing, right? And then you're $5,000 in with no new customers and and you're like, well, that one didn't work. I'm sorry, one
by the
second.
way, that's okay. By the way, when I'll have another nugget for you. Instead of influencer, those people are the ones that blow all your money and don't do anything. They're outfluencers.
Yeah, that's true. Outfluencer marketing.
I'll have to remember that one. Brittany, tell me a little bit about being in, I know you're in and from Kentucky and so forth. And I know you've mentioned in the past that sometimes it can be frustrating being in sort of not in the center of whatever, New York, Chicago, LA, that kind of thing. But tell me a little bit about, how you've been able to leverage the fact that you're in Kentucky to success. Tell me a little bit of that.
I think that the good thing about the pandemic was that Zoom really got popular and it kind of opened up a whole new world for people on the other side, of that tech ecosphere. Kentucky, I love Kentucky so much. It's my home state. It's a beautiful place, an amazing place to be. But we are behind and we do things differently. What we invest in is different. We have kind of a slower pace in certain things. We're very, we have a lot of really beautiful things, a lot of, things that are amazing here. But tech is really not something that we have typically been known for. So I really think, in sports tech, even though we're a big, University of Kentucky is big, we're not really known necessarily as a sports state. We're known as a bourbon and horse estate, and we do that very well. So when you guys want to have yourself a little bourbon bar down here, Kentucky's the place to do it. But, so we have but tech has not really been one. So Zoom has really been fantastic because it's given you a way, one, to do networking like this, which I think is super important. As a business owner, you don't want to hear it, but networking is 99% of it. You never know how you can help somebody else or how they can help you or how you guys can work together to grow if you don't reach out and talk to people. So having ways like this to connect virtually with people from Canada, California, wherever that is really important. Being able to raise funds. Some of our investors are not here in Kentucky. They're not anywhere close. And so that's been really nice. So, being able to kind of leverage and really work with in this virtual world has been really helpful. And I've been really thankful for that because, I'm able to do meetings like this and really be successful and grow my business and, talk to places that I couldn't normally talk to. And, most of the time you'd have to travel to talk to teams or talk to leagues. That's how it got done. That's how it got done in the old days. If you're going to partner with somebody, it was a phone call and an in-person meeting. Now, they can see your face and that's good enough, which for me is fantastic because I could be sweatpants on the bottom. It's just a whole new life for me that I'm really loving. So there's that. But I really do appreciate that. I think that makes it really good. And there are lots of ways, like the platform that you built, I think is fantastic because it's very personal networking. You really do feel like you're getting to know the people that you're walking around in this little virtual world with. You're creating these real human connections, which is really what this is about, and helping each other leverage what you're already doing to grow. So I really appreciate things like that. And, I'm thankful for some of these things going online because it does, in some respects, make it easier for me to connect with people that, their views align with what I'm doing, as opposed to me constantly hard selling, like you're saying, find people that their ideas align with mine, that they're sports focused, that they're, and if those people aren't in your state, it gives you a way to go outside of that. Maybe if they're not in your city and you just don't want to drive an hour, it gives you a way to really kind of branch out what you're doing and expand. And so, we we're growing our business. We have a bunch of interns that we've onboarded who are fantastic. We're working with a lot of colleges. So we've got some from University of Kentucky, which obviously my home state, but we're able to offer internship programs and work experiences for people virtually all over, which is fantastic too. You get a lot of ideas and you get to work in this kind of virtual environment, and everybody's kind of, I think happier and more comfortable, being able to be in their own setting if they want to be. And, I think you can expand your business in new ways that you weren't able to before.
Well, what's interesting is that before the pandemic and before I started doing these, I had a bajillion people I knew in New York City. Now I don't know anybody. I mean, I know everybody from everywhere else, like you were saying earlier. And, it's interesting because I'm doing this live event in New York, and I was like, wait a minute. Everyone I know here has got to fly in for that. What the heck? I got to figure out some other way to do it. But it's interesting that you're absolutely right. You now have the mechanism in place, both of you, to add to a team, with people that are nowhere near you, right? It's pretty fantastic. Tamara, you just demonstrated one of the challenges of
I have 5 kids too, so I feel you. It's all right. I'm
Yeah.
always like muting myself, and I'm like, you just quit. I told you I needed 5 minutes, please.
and
Yeah.
it's funny because between kids, and then we also got the occasional pet flying through and other things happening, and snowball hitting a window or something or other. It's a lot that goes on, but it's interesting. I think if anything though, I feel like we've become a little bit more, I guess, sensitive to that, or desensitized or something like that. In other words, we're more tolerant of chaos happening in the background because we're all going through that sort of thing, with distractions and whatnot. But you know what? I want to jump to the questions real quick because Natalie has a great question. I'm going to ask each of you to answer if you don't mind.
I was just looking at that, and
Yeah.
I was like, that is a great question. And I also have
Well,
had the
let me read it
pleasure.
out loud
Go
for
ahead.
the people
Sorry,
that
go
are.
ahead.
Yeah. No, because there are people that are going to be listening to this and they can't see that. So that's why I'm going to say that. So she asks, I'm also a woman in sports, and I think we bring powerful narratives to sports. How do you think being a woman in sports gives you a competitive advantage, Tamara?
Well, I first want to say I've had the wonderful opportunity of working with Natalie. She's incredible, and her work is absolutely incredible. Every Kid Sports is doing such great things. And so Card Shop Live has partnered with them to raise money for them. So that has been a fun experience. But to answer the question, I saw that and I've been thinking about it. And I think you're right. Women do have the opportunity to have a really strong voice, and it is a competitive advantage. But I think it comes from a place of, I don't want to say that men don't have this, because anyone can have this, but women generally have a more maybe compassionate or nurturing tendency and inclusive tendency, where we look for opportunities to partner with people and raise people up. And so we usually have kind of like a, let's all rise together. Let's all, and that means that you work with more people as you're growing a business. And especially, being a woman in sports, working with more people helps. And I think that that's very powerful. So, you don't, like, for me, I know I reach out to my network. I reach out to the women in my network and say, hey, how can we do this? How can we do this together? How can we, build something and partner? And I think that is a competitive advantage. I don't assume, that I can do it by myself. I think that women are more likely to do that and reach out and ask for, partnerships and collaboration.
Excellent. Good answer. And Brittany?
Yeah, I agree with everything that you said. I really think that there is something to having a mixed team. And I think a lot of women work really well with the mixed team because we've worked with only mixed teams. There for a long time, there haven't been just like all female businesses or all this. We're used to working with mixed teams. So they're like, oh, hey, you get along with everybody. We're used to getting along with everybody. So I do feel like there's that soft side that we give to things. It's not necessarily like, oh, you're crying and emotional, but there is, like a diffusing thing, I think, that a lot of women are able to bring to situations that I do think is absolutely powerful. And I think the way that we feel connected to each other, like you were saying, building upon what other people are doing and kind of figuring out ways to work with each other, I do think is very powerful. And, I think that it's really vital that there need to be these kinds of different types of teams, in businesses with men and women and, different races. And because you get a bunch of different ideas and you get lots of different viewpoints. And
Mhm.
I do think that there are women fans. So not asking women how to market to women was always a big mess. And so I think now
Yeah.
teams and leagues are like, okay, we've got 50-60% of our audience in these stands are women. What do they want? You guys have always been like, we don't know what you want. And so now finally they're like, okay, we're not going to ask you, but we'll just put a woman in place, and she'll know what you guys want. And I also think that, women have been very good at kind of multitasking and managing a bunch of different types of things. So my co-founder is not on here right now. James, we always joke that he's always late to meetings. I'm on time. And I'm like, how is it possible that with all my kids and all my wrangling I have to do that I'm on time and you're not? He's like, because you know how to work in that environment.
Yeah.
I do think that there's something to that. I'm sure that there are women out there that are late too, I get that. But I do think that there's something to being able to multitask. I am used to somebody yelling and screaming what they need and also writing up a document at the same time. Not everybody can do that. My husband, bless his heart, he has the option to work from home every day of his life. He's like, nope, at the office, got to be there because he can't work like that. So I think all of us have kind of gotten used to that just from the way the world's worked. A lot of us came up in this environment doing dual things. If you're a mom, you also
Hmm.
work, you're also a parent. So you're used to kind of doing both of those things. So I think that's a superpower too. I think that being able to listen to my child scream, having you in the background telling your daughter to be quiet, and then also getting right back to it, that is a super strength for sure. And not everybody can do it. So, I think that those things are important.
Yeah, well, it's funny you bring up the multitasking because I could barely single task, so I'm always amazed at that. And my wife can do 7 things at once too. So yeah, I don't know what that. Not really sure what that's all about.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't know, but we're born with it. So
Yeah. Well, it's funny. We're in the middle of a raise. We were putting together our pitch deck for it. And my CEO's got me on a call. I'm making dinner for my daughter and going over the stats. And he's like, it seems like you're not really focusing. And I was like,
I got hot food in front of here. I got five screaming in
yeah.
there. Yeah,
yeah,
I'm gonna get it done. But that's the reason why, people pass off stuff to us because
Yeah.
they know as busy as I am, like I
like it's
will do
fun.
stuff like that too. I will cook and send you the stats that you need and get graphics done all at the same time. So
That's
good for
cool.
you too. I love to
So,
hear that you're cooking and doing business meetings. That was me last night. So
all right, everybody. Okay. So Laura has a great question. She says, for app-based startup ideas, what are your suggestions for someone with no app developing skills and limited startup funding?
Well, that was me going into
Yeah.
this, right? This was my first app experience. Um, I think the number one thing now looking back is talking with multiple developers, right?
Hmm.
Getting an understanding of how multiple developers would go about, creating what your vision is in the very beginning. And then, before even getting started, really leaning on talking to your network, finding out who's got expertise in this and finding kind of your friends and the people that you know around you who can give you advice before you jump in, right? It's if you don't have any experience in the app world, because it is a lot different than just creating a website. Apps are a different animal, right?
Hmm.
So I would definitely start doing a lot of consulting and reading um, about that process and having a really strong person that you can either lean on or bring in as an advisor who has that technical skill for apps, I think is invaluable.
And well, how do you keep the money down though? I mean, it can be pretty expensive.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where, you start talking to a lot of different developers, right?
Hmm.
Because and you have to know your options, and then you have to start I'm about to get into the weeds, and you have to start talking security, right? And how are you going to keep this app secure 24/7, especially if
Mm,
you have payments going through it, and what your liability is. And that's why, because you can keep your costs down if you go offshore for part of your development team.
mhm.
um but then how long is it going to take? Are you going to meet your goals? So then, you start talking with teams here, and they're going to be robust, they're going to be more expensive, but they may be able to handle that 24/7 security need that you may have if you're launching something that deals with people's personal information. Um so that's where, and apps and websites are totally different when it comes to how you do your security for it. So that's why just I say, like, as you go in, you need to have a strong either advisor or person on your team that knows this stuff.
Got it. Excellent advice, Brittany.
Yeah, I think that, I have seen, there are a couple of people that I'm friends with in Kentucky that, have built an app that maybe they had the idea, but that wasn't their strong suit. And they networked and found somebody that was in coding. And, they pitched their idea, and the person that was in code, they're like, oh my gosh, this is a great idea. And so they partnered together, split the equity. One person built it, one person. So I think that there are lots of ways that you can do that. Find somebody that really gets what your vision is, really understands what you're excited about too. There's somebody out there. There's somebody out there that has those, companion skills to what you have. And that's really what you're going to need to build a good business anyways, is to find people that have strengths that are not yours. So if it's an app that you're building, you need to go out there and start, finding people on LinkedIn, reach out, come to events like this, like, find friends, be like, hey, I'm looking to try to develop this. Maybe people. There are people that are coming out of coding school all the time that want an opportunity, maybe want to try something, or you can really build it, I think, for inexpensive if you get the right partner too, and find somebody that's really going to take that part of the bulk, and then you do the other part. So it's really just kind of like, either finding a good development team, somebody that you can work with, and finding somebody that believes in what you're doing that will help fund it, which is also an option, or finding a good partner that you guys can do an equity split. And maybe that's the person that does your development. You're going
Mhm.
to need a development, you're going to need a developer no matter what. So you might as well find somebody that you're like, okay, this is our project, we're going to build this thing together. And you can find somebody that I think will do that with you. I've seen a lot of teams created where they didn't know each other before. Me and my partner James, we did not know each other before. We have two other silent co-founders. One of them, they had the beginning parts of this idea, and they kind of put the rest of us together as pieces. We're like, hey, I think you guys would all be a team. So then we started during COVID, and we just kind of figured it out, and we all kind of became a team. But we all had the same idea and the same goal, and we all had different strengths, and we're able to work together. So I think that there's a lot of opportunities for you to start a business, even if you don't have funding, even if you don't have those skills, to work with somebody that does.
Bingo. I love that. Great answer. Both of you is fantastic. So uh, back to you, Tamara, for a sec. Um, if someone had the opportunity to introduce you to fill in the blank, like who would be the most useful for you to, or types of people? And you mentioned growth, and you mentioned obviously you want to add users to your platform, but who'd be the best type of people for you to meet? Uh, you know, whether it's people that we here can introduce you to, or from our networks.
Wow, that's a great question. I'm trying to think because, like I said, we're in the middle of multiple things. So we're going into a raise. So anyone who's interested in or knows people who might be interested in this space and investing in this space, any introduction is welcome. And then, we're looking for partnerships. I keep thinking in my dream world, we would be in every stadium across America doing live auctions for the home team, where they could raise money for whatever they'd like, or be introducing fans and kids to to the hobby. So that would be cool. Those are my big ones.
Well,
That's
so
something that I'm
the
reaching
dream
for.
becomes a reality here. So, I think you can ask if anybody here has connections to people that happen to work at arenas or work with teams or leagues that can get you an introduction into being able to host an event like that, whether it's for a hockey game in between periods or at halftime for a basketball game or halftime during a football game. It can be anything. In fact, Brittany, I bet you know somebody at Kentucky, the stadium there and so forth. Just a guess.
I
So
do. I know some people there now.
there you go.
So I would love to talk with you after this.
Mhm.
I have some connections and some other things that I think some people that would be interested in exactly what you're doing. We're doing very different things, but our goal is to really raise up a new generation of fans. And that's the same goal. We're just going about it in two completely different ways, and we're not competing with each other. And I think that that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I love that. So, I would love to be able for us to talk afterwards, because I think we both probably have some connections that can help the other one out. And I would love to be able to give you mine. So,
For sure.
100%.
Awesome. So, Brittany, how about you? Who would be the best people for you to meet to help you in the next, the short term and then the long term?
we are raising our first round of fundraising. I've never done fundraising before. It's
It's
very difficult.
awesome.
Yeah, said not one person that's ever done it. It is brutal. So, especially during, this kind of climate, things are just completely crazy. So, if you know anybody that would be interested, I would love to get to pitch to them and, talk to them about what I'm doing. Don't ask me to tell you about my business, because I'll go all day. But I would love to talk to anybody that may be an investor. We're also, partnering with people in the teams and the league side. So far we have not had one team or league push back on what we're doing, because they know that they're displaced fans all over the country. They know that there are fans that are not going to be able to go into the stadiums. I can't affect that number. You're not going to use my app if you're a ticket holder. You're just not. And that's okay. My app's not for that. It's for the people that don't live in that place, that can't go, that have 5 kids like me, that would want to go to every game, but just can't get there.
Right.
It's for the people that, want to cuss during the game, and they don't want to be screaming obscenities in front of their small children like me. So, any teams or leagues, we also harness the power of sports influencers. So we give them a place to talk to an audience that loves them. So, if you know any former athletes that you think would be interested in doing something like this, I would love for you to send them, my way. And, just other businesses like this. Businesses that are very sports focused. We are selling sponsorships to our targeted chat rooms right now. So these are, shout outs, that endorsements giving by the influencers in the chat rooms. So you're getting the benefit of using that person's social media influence, getting a targeted audience inside the chat room. We're not running kind of those typical ads that people, that you run inside your app that are click-through ads. We're trying to do something that's kind of new and different. So if you, know of any businesses that, kind of align with the same thing, we would love to try to work and partner with some people to see if we can grow that way too. So that's a lot of asks. I know, I feel like we had a lot of asks,
Hang on
but
a second.
when you're on world domination, which is, I think, what we're both trying to do, world sports domination, it's a lot. So, a lot of asks. Yeah, Gary, haven't started crowdfunding just yet. Have definitely been approached about doing that. Kind of a scary space. I would love, to get more information about that. Try to, I feel overwhelmed just by doing, the amount but you've got to do all the kinds of fundraising. So I'd love to talk to you about that afterwards,
Well,
Gary.
it's interesting that Gary mentions that because I was chatting with a guy who's raising funds he's got a vodka. It's called Rockin' Vodka. And it's, he's got some rock and roll musicians that are supporting and so forth. But he's got, when you first go on his site, he's like, well, we're, at $772,000 of our goal of blank, put in your amount right here. So he's got it right off the bat where individuals can put in any sort of amount that goes into, getting equity and that sort of thing, but this much equity or whatever it might be. So it certainly is happening. I can tell you about them later also.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us
Cool
your ways.
beans.
What are they
Awesome.
doing?
Well, you guys are both absolutely amazing. I'm so thrilled that we did this today. We're going to, in a couple minutes, go back to the tables, and so you can continue the chats with some of these folks. But you're both, I mean, I'm so excited that I've had the opportunity to meet you both. You know, I have a specific, you know, affinity for each of your businesses and what you're doing. And I certainly want to continue partnering and have Win Again, you know, be a significant partner. But I think that you're going to find that within here, there's going to be several other people that really want to have some conversations with you. So I hope you can both stick around for a few minutes. Thank you so much for sharing your time tonight. I really appreciate it. You know, you're both fantastic.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you
You
so
both
much. This has been fun.
Awesome. Love it. So anyway, and look, this is part of what we love doing here with these clubroom events, is really connecting people and businesses and, you know, again, elevating each other. So thanks again for being here.